Why Women Test Men, Marcus Aurelius versus Seneca, explained it perfectly. What if I told you that two Roman emperors and philosophers figured out why women test men over 2,000 years ago? And what if their insights are so powerful that understanding them will completely transform how you handle every interaction with women for the rest of your life? I'm about to reveal the ancient Stoic wisdom that explains exactly why women test men, how to pass these tests effortlessly, and why most men fail so spectacularly that they destroy their own attractiveness without even realizing it. If you've ever been confused by a woman's behavior or frustrated by what seems like games and tests, hit that like button right now. Comment Stoic if you're ready to learn what Marcus Aurelius and Seneca knew about female psychology that modern men are completely clueless about. This isn't just philosophy. This is the key to understanding the deepest patterns of human attraction and behavior. First hook, the ancient discovery picture. This, ancient Rome, the most powerful civilization in human history. Two of the greatest minds who ever lived are observing human nature at the highest levels of society, politics, and relationships. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled the Roman Empire at its peak while writing the most profound insights about human psychology ever recorded. Seneca, the master strategist, advisor to emperors and expert in human behavior, who understood the subtle dynamics of power, influence, and social interaction better than anyone before or since. These men didn't just theorize about human nature, they lived it. They dealt with the most complex, high-stakes relationships imaginable. They observed how people behaved when everything was on the line. And what they discovered about why women test men is so accurate, so profound, that it perfectly explains every confusing female behavior you've ever experienced. But here's what's incredible. Their insights are completely opposite from what modern dating advice tells you to do. Second hook, the modern confusion. Before I reveal what the Stoics understood, let me ask you something. Have you ever experienced this? You're talking to a woman, everything seems to be going well, and then suddenly, she says something that seems designed to make you react. Maybe she mentions another guy. Maybe she challenges something you said. Maybe she tests your boundaries in some subtle way, and you think, why is she doing this? I thought we were getting along great. Or this. You're in a relationship, and your girlfriend or wife occasionally does things that seem deliberately designed to see how you'll respond. She might be late without calling, or disagree with you about something that doesn't seem important, or act distant for no apparent reason, and you wonder, is she trying to start a fight? Why can't she just be straightforward? What if I told you that these aren't random behaviors or character flaws? What if these are actually sophisticated psychological processes that serve a specific evolutionary and social function? Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood something that most modern men never figure out. Women aren't testing you to be difficult. They're testing you because they have to. Third hook, Marcus Aurelius's insight. Let me start with Marcus Aurelius, because his understanding of human nature was so advanced that psychologists are still catching up to his insights 2,000 years later. His Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of emotional self-regulation and maintaining inner strength regardless of external circumstances. But what most people miss is how this applies to relationships and attraction. Marcus Aurelius understood that every human interaction is fundamentally a test of character, not because people are malicious, but because character can only be revealed under pressure. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" This wasn't just about anger management. It was about understanding that your response to challenges reveals who you really are. When it comes to women testing men, Marcus Aurelius would say that these tests are opportunities to demonstrate the very qualities that make men attractive: emotional stability, inner strength, and unshakable confidence. Women aren't testing you to see if you'll get angry or defensive or needy. They're testing you to see if you possess the inner fortress that Marcus Aurelius called the citadel of the self. This is why confident men pass women's tests effortlessly, while insecure men fail spectacularly. Confident men have what Marcus Aurelius called freedom from disturbance. They're not emotionally dependent on external validation or outcomes. When a woman tests such a man, he doesn't even see it as a test. He sees it as just another moment to be himself, calm, centered, and unaffected by attempts to disturb his inner peace. Fourth, hook, the emperor's wisdom. Marcus Aurelius had a unique perspective on testing because he was literally tested every single day as emperor of Rome. Every decision he made, every word he spoke, every action he took was scrutinized by senators, generals, citizens, and enemies. He learned that people test leaders not because they want them to fail, but because they need to know if they can be trusted with power and responsibility. This is exactly what women are doing when they test men. They're not trying to make your life difficult. They're trying to determine if you can be trusted with influence over their emotions, their future, and potentially their children. Marcus Aurelius understood that leadership, whether of an empire or in a relationship, requires what he called constancy of purpose. You must remain the same person regardless of external pressures or circumstances. When a woman tests you by mentioning another man, she's not trying to make you jealous. She's trying to see if you're secure enough in your own value that you don't need to control her attention to feel good about yourself. When she challenges your opinion, she's not trying to start an argument. She's trying to see if you can maintain your position without getting defensive or aggressive. Marcus Aurelius would say that these tests are gifts, not burdens. They're opportunities to practice the very virtues that make you attractive and successful in all areas of life: patience, self-control, confidence, and emotional independence. The men who understand this pass every test without effort. The men who don't understand this fail every test while trying too hard. Fifth, hook, Seneca's strategic perspective. Now let me tell you what Seneca understood about human psychology that adds another crucial layer to this understanding. Seneca was not just a philosopher. He was a master strategist who advised emperors on politics, human nature, and social dynamics. He understood that all human relationships involve elements of power, influence, and social positioning. Seneca wrote extensively about what he called the passions, emotions that disturb our rational judgment and lead to poor decisions. He understood that emotional self-mastery is not just personally beneficial, it's strategically advantageous. When it comes to women testing men, Seneca would approach this from a strategic perspective. These tests are information-gathering exercises designed to assess your emotional intelligence and social competence. Seneca understood something that modern men miss. Women are naturally more sophisticated at reading social and emotional cues than men are. They've developed this skill because their survival and success have historically depended on their ability to assess character accurately. When a woman tests you, she's using her superior emotional intelligence to gather data about your personality, your values, your insecurities, and your potential as a long-term partner. Seneca would say that the key to passing these tests is not to try to manipulate the outcome, but to actually be the kind of person who naturally passes them. This requires what he called virtue in action, consistently embodying the qualities that create attraction and respect. This is why pickup techniques and manipulation tactics ultimately fail with high-quality women. They can sense the incongruence between your actions and your actual character. Sixth hook, the testing paradox. Here's where both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca would agree on something that sounds paradoxical, but is absolutely crucial. The men who care the least about passing women's tests are the ones who pass them most easily. This isn't because they're indifferent to women. It's because they're not emotionally dependent on any particular woman's approval or reaction. Marcus Aurelius called this freedom from the need for applause. Seneca called it independence from external goods. Both understood that neediness and desperation are repulsive to everyone, especially to potential romantic partners. When you need a woman to react in a specific way to feel good about yourself, you've already failed the test. Your neediness will be obvious in your body language, your voice tonality, and your energy. But when you're genuinely content with yourself regardless of her reaction, you pass the test automatically. Your inner strength becomes attractive because it signals emotional maturity and self-sufficiency. This is why women often lose interest in men who seem too eager or too invested too early. They're not testing you to be cruel, they're testing you to see if you're the kind of man who has options and standards. The Stoics would say that the goal isn't to become indifferent to women, but to become indifferent to outcomes. You should enjoy female company while being perfectly willing to walk away if the relationship doesn't serve your highest good. This creates what both philosophers would recognize as attractive detachment. You're engaged, but not needy, interested, but not desperate. Seventh hook, the virtue test. Both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca believed that character is revealed through adversity. They would see women's tests as opportunities to practice the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. When a woman tests you, she's essentially asking, do you possess the virtues that make a man worth following and trusting? Wisdom. Can you see through surface appearances to understand what's really happening? When she tests you, do you understand it's about her need for security, not about her trying to hurt you? Justice. Are you fair and principled in your responses? Do you maintain your standards without being vindictive or petty? Courage. Do you have the strength to maintain your position under pressure? Can you stay calm and centered when challenged? Temperance. Do you have self-control over your emotions and reactions? Can you respond thoughtfully rather than reactively? The men who naturally embody these virtues pass women's tests without even thinking about it. They're not trying to pass tests, they're just being themselves, and their authentic selves happen to be attractive because they've developed their character. This is why personal development is so much more effective than dating techniques. When you actually become a high-value man, you don't need to figure out how to appear like one. If this Stoic wisdom is making sense and helping you understand female behavior in a completely new way, smash that like button. Comment virtue if you're committed to developing the character traits that make men naturally attractive. And share this with a friend who needs to understand why women test men. Eighth hook. The emotional fortress is Marcus Aurelius had a concept he called the inner citadel, an unassailable fortress of inner strength that external circumstances cannot touch. This concept is crucial for understanding how to handle women's tests. Most men build their confidence on external validation, how women respond to them, how much money they make, how they compare to other men. But this creates a fragile ego that crumbles under testing. The Stoic approach is to build your confidence on internal factors, your character, your principles, your personal growth, your contribution to the world. These things can't be taken away by anyone else's behavior or opinions. When you have a genuine inner fortress, women's tests don't threaten you because your self-worth doesn't depend on passing them. You respond from a place of strength rather than insecurity. This is completely different from pretending not to care or acting aloof. Those are external behaviors that women can see through immediately. The inner fortress is about actually developing the internal strength that makes external validation unnecessary. Seneca wrote about this as self-sufficiency, not needing anything from others to feel complete and valuable. When you genuinely feel this way, your energy changes, and women respond to that authentic confidence. This means investing in yourself, your skills, your health, your interests, your relationships with friends and family, your contribution to something larger than yourself. When your life is full and meaningful independently of any romantic relationship, you naturally become more attractive. Women test men partially to see if they're emotionally needy or self-sufficient. The self-sufficient men pass without effort. Ninth hook, the attraction principle. Here's something both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca understood about human nature that explains why women are attracted to men who pass their tests rather than men who try too hard to please them. Humans are attracted to strength, not weakness. This isn't just physical strength, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual strength. Tests are designed to reveal this strength. When you respond to a woman's test with neediness, defensiveness, or anger, you're demonstrating emotional weakness. You're showing that your inner state depends on her behavior, which makes you less attractive as a potential partner. When you respond with calm confidence and self-assurance, you're demonstrating emotional strength. You're showing that you're centered in yourself, which is inherently attractive. The Stoics understood that attraction isn't logical. It's based on deep psychological patterns that developed over thousands of years of human evolution. Women are unconsciously attracted to signs of genetic and social fitness, emotional stability, confidence, and the ability to remain calm under pressure are all signs of fitness. They suggest that you could handle the challenges of life and leadership effectively. This is why women often lose attraction to men who become too accommodating or eager to please. It's not that they don't appreciate kindness. It's that excessive accommodation signals weakness and insecurity. The Stoic approach creates attraction because it demonstrates genuine strength. You're kind because you choose to be, not because you need to be liked. 10th hook, the response strategy. So how exactly would Marcus Aurelius and Seneca respond to women's tests? Let me give you their precise framework for handling any testing. Situation first, they would pause. Both philosophers emphasized the importance of the space between stimulus and response. When you react immediately to a test, you're usually reacting emotionally rather than thoughtfully. Second, they would observe. What is really happening here? Is she testing your boundaries, your confidence, your emotional stability? Understanding. The real purpose behind the test helps you respond appropriately. Third, they would choose their response based on their principles, not their emotions. How does a virtuous man respond to this situation? What response serves your highest good and maintains your integrity? If she mentions another man to see if you'll get jealous, a Stoic response might be, "He sounds interesting. You have good taste in people." This shows confidence and emotional security. If she challenges your opinion to see if you'll get defensive, you might say, "I can see why you'd think that. Here's why I see it differently." This maintains your position without being threatened by disagreement. If she's late without calling to see how you'll react, you might simply continue with your plans and mention later, "I figured something came up, so I went ahead with my evening." This shows you have your own life and don't depend on her for your happiness. The key is responding from a place of strength and self-respect rather than neediness or anger. 11th hook, the long-term perspective both. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca were big-picture thinkers who understood that every interaction is part of a larger pattern. They would see women's tests not as isolated incidents, but as part of the ongoing process of building attraction and respect. Women don't test you once and then stop. Testing is an ongoing process throughout relationships, but the nature of the tests changes as trust and attraction build. Early tests are about basic character. Are you emotionally stable? Do you have confidence? Can you handle pressure? Later tests might be about leadership. Can you make decisions? Do you have vision for the future? Can you handle responsibility? The men who understand this pattern don't get frustrated by testing. They see it as a sign that the woman is interested enough to invest energy in evaluating them. Women don't waste time testing men. They're not considering as potential partners. Seneca would particularly appreciate this strategic perspective. Tests are actually indicators of opportunity, not obstacles to overcome. As you consistently pass tests by demonstrating virtue and strength, the testing decreases because trust increases. Women who feel secure in their man's character don't need to test as frequently. This creates a positive cycle. Your strong responses build her confidence in you, which reduces her need to test, which creates a more harmonious relationship. 12th hook, the character development, has perhaps the most important insight from both philosophers. The goal isn't just to pass women's tests. The goal is to become the kind of man who naturally passes them because you've developed authentic virtue and strength. Marcus Aurelius spent his entire life working on character development. His Meditations is essentially a personal journal of his efforts to become a better man. He understood that this work never ends. Seneca wrote extensively about practical exercises for developing Stoic virtues. Both men understood that character is built through daily practice, not through reading or talking about philosophy. This means that learning to handle women's tests is just one benefit of a larger project, becoming a man of genuine virtue and strength. This involves daily practices, meditation or reflection, physical exercise, intellectual growth, creative pursuits, service to others, and honest self-examination. When you're genuinely working on becoming your best self, you develop an inner confidence that can't be shaken by external circumstances, including women's tests. This is why the Stoic approach is so effective with women. It's not about learning techniques or manipulation tactics. It's about actually becoming more attractive by developing the qualities that create attraction. Women's sophisticated emotional intelligence can detect the difference between authentic confidence and performed confidence. Authentic confidence is always more attractive. 13th hook. The modern application. Now let me show you how to apply this ancient wisdom in modern dating and relationships. The principles are eternal, but the applications need to be updated for contemporary life. In online dating, women might test you through delayed responses, challenging messages, or mentioning other options. The Stoic response is to maintain your own timeline and standards while being genuinely interested but not needy. In early dating, she might test your leadership by being indecisive about plans or test your confidence by mentioning other men. Your response should demonstrate that you can lead without being controlling and that you're secure without being arrogant. In relationships, tests might involve boundaries, decision-making, or how you handle stress and challenges. Your goal is to be consistent in your character, regardless of the specific situation. The Stoics would say that social media, texting, and modern communication create new opportunities for testing, but don't change the fundamental principles. Women are still looking for the same core qualities: strength, virtue, and emotional stability. The key is to maintain your Stoic principles across all platforms and interactions. Your character should be consistent whether you're texting, talking in person, or interacting on social media. This means having standards for how you communicate, how quickly you respond to messages, and how much time and energy you invest before receiving similar investment from her. 14th hook. The transformation. Promise. Imagine what your interactions with women would look like if you truly understood and applied this Stoic wisdom about testing. Instead of feeling anxious or confused when women challenge you, you'd feel confident and centered because you'd understand the deeper purpose behind their behavior. Instead of trying to figure out the right response to every test, you'd naturally respond from your authentic character, which would consistently create attraction and respect. Instead of getting frustrated by what seems like games or manipulation, you'd appreciate the sophisticated way that women evaluate character and potential. Your relationships would become more harmonious because women would feel secure in your strength and consistency. The testing would decrease as trust increased. You'd attract higher quality women because your authentic strength would naturally appeal to women who have developed their own character and standards. Most importantly, you'd become a better man. Overall, the virtues that make you attractive to women, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, also make you more successful in business, leadership, and life. This is why the Stoic approach is so powerful. It's not just about dating success. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally succeeds in all areas of life. Final hook. The call to action. So here's my challenge to you. Stop seeing women's tests as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities to practice virtue and demonstrate character. Stop trying to manipulate outcomes and start focusing on becoming the kind of man who naturally creates the outcomes you want. Begin each day with the question Marcus Aurelius would ask: how can I demonstrate virtue in my interactions today? End each day with the question Seneca would ask: what did I learn about myself and how can I improve tomorrow? When women test you, remember that they're doing so because they're interested enough to invest energy in evaluating you. This is an opportunity, not a problem. Start building your inner fortress through daily practices that develop real strength and virtue. Read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and Seneca's letters. Practice the Stoic exercises that build character. Most importantly, focus on becoming genuinely attractive rather than trying to appear attractive. The difference is everything. Remember, these two men understood human nature at the deepest level. They ruled empires and advised emperors. Their insights about character, virtue, and human relationships have been tested by time and proven accurate for over 2,000 years. When you apply their wisdom to modern relationships, you're not just learning dating advice. you're accessing some of the most profound insights about human psychology ever recorded. If this ancient wisdom has transformed how you see female behavior and your own character development, smash that like button. Comment, "Inner Fortress," if you're committed to building the Stoic strength that makes men naturally attractive to women. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I have more ancient wisdom that will revolutionize your understanding of attraction, success, and life. The Stoics understood that character is destiny. Choose to build character, and everything else will follow.